Welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. I'm Frank Wander, and I'm here with my co-host Terry Mays. Today, we're going to be talking about the impact of stress on performance. We're going to go through the biological reasons that stress absolutely impairs how well your human infrastructure is operating. And as you know, we cover different topics on the human factors each week because in this era, people are the most important tool in every company. So you should join us each week to begin to understand how to most effectively use the human capital in your company, how to most effectively work with others if you're not a leader. That's really what this is all about. And Terry, you want to kick us off with an intro?
Yes. Hello, I'm Terry Mays. I'm a certified culture engineer with emphasis on helping companies bring out the best in their people.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder and CEO of PeopleProductive. We help companies use the time, talent, and energy of their people most effectively so they can create cultures that really outperform. And that's what this is all about. So today we have a great topic, actually. I think you're really going to like it. Um, the impact of stress on performance. There's far too much stress in the workplace. And when you have a lot of stress, basically you are driving down the performance of the talent in your organization. And it can be significant depending on how much stress you have in the workplace. So let's start off with this. Tara, I know you put this together. You wanted to start with the slide.
Sure. This having that state of stress really disrupts harmony. And that's really what it's all about. Having this place where people are divided against each other, they're not working well together, there's no collaboration. So, this is just a literal picture of that. So, the literal meaning of harmony, if the family lives in harmony, everything will prosper. So that's really what you want to do when we're talking about families here. But in the workplace, you want the workplace to live in harmony together. You want people to be able to cooperate and work well with each other because that reduces stress. When you have teams that function well together, they're high performing teams, there's not a whole lot of chaos and confusion. That really does help speed the work. And so that's really what you're looking for in your team. You don't want your team to be divided against each other where this person can't work with that person. It's going to slow down work and it's going to create a lot of stress in the environment.
And there are many stressors in the environment. Actually, you can have a lack of demand management. You can have people working on 13 things. You can have unreasonable dates. You can have an environment where everything is broken. The deadlines never move. You can't get the work done. So it's the whole culture and environments, how effectively people are able to work together. And remember, a lack of disagreement in an organization isn't harmony, it's apathy. Really
Right.
good cultures, people can disagree. You want harmony, but the right kind of harmony,
Right.
because that's what really it's all about. And one of the things that really begins to affect stress in the environment is actually this limbic system, which is a threat sensor. There are many types of threats in a work environment. Humans come wired with a threat sensor. And literally, your mind is scanning the environment all the time. It's your subconscious, which is the most powerful tool. We covered that in the last couple of episodes. You really need to understand how the human infrastructure works. But this threat sensor is there. And 90% of what the amygdala is doing is looking for threats because that's survival. Survival is number one. You don't survive, you're no longer part of the gene pool. Boom, right? You're out of it. And so humans are wired to actually survive. This threat
Yes.
sensor is very important. It's there. It's that little almond-shaped gland you can see right there. The amygdala, it's pointing to it. And it is monitoring the environment all the time for any threat. You don't even know it's working.
Yes.
It's all
We
subconscious.
want to be in safe environments. We really do want to feel like we're safe. And that's really important. Emotional safety, physical safety, all of that matters in the workplace. If people feel like their manager doesn't have their back or they have to watch their back with their coworkers, that their coworkers are looking to stab them in the back or throw them under the bus, like all of those things just raise the stress level in the organization and it makes it difficult to work. So we're automatically wired to detect that threat. from other people, from our managers, from coworkers, just any threats in the workplace. You want to eliminate those threats as much as possible so that people feel safe, that they don't feel like they have to take care of themselves and that nobody is looking out for them. As a leader, that is your responsibility to remove any obstacles that are hurting the work and slowing down the work progress. So you want to make sure that you're doing your job as a leader and keeping people in that state where they feel safe and they feel like they don't have to be on high alert all the time so that creativity can flow.
Yeah, and let's dig a little deeper into this. So this is actually from Daniel Goleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. When the amygdala sounds an alarm, threat sensor goes off, it sends urgent messages to every part of the brain. It triggers the secretion of flight or fright hormones, sets the brain on edge, speeds heart rate, raises blood pressure, slows breathing, and rivets attention on the source of the fear and prepares the muscles to react accordingly. The mind and body have been hijacked. So they're all different levels of threats in the environment, but what they do is they completely change your focus to the threat. The cognitive mind really starts to shut down so you can focus on the threat at hand. The degree of the threat determines the degree of the reaction. And this is going on automatically. You don't control that. If the subconscious picks up a threat, the amygdala is triggered, boom, this goes on. It basically changes how signals run in the brain. They go around the neocortex, and your mind starts to evaluate everything going on. That becomes the focus. So you could see that you have a human infrastructure, any type of threat, and we'll get into the different types of threats that occur in a work environment, they're triggering the amygdala. So this is a biological process. It is going to go off. This more or less shuts down the equipment and stops it from producing productive work, right? And if you
Yes.
had a large factory full of equipment and someone came in and powered down the equipment, you'd fire them right away. Like, what the hell are you doing? But if it's human infrastructure, it's happening. Most people are just unaware that this is taking place. Years ago, no one knew. More people are waking up. Fact of the matter is, this really matters.
Yes. It shuts down all rational thought. At the point that you sense that fear or you feel that fright or flight, once you feel that, your body automatically goes into protection mode. How can I survive this attack? You're not thinking rationally, you're not thinking calmly. Your mind is racing, your heart's rate has sped up, your blood pressure is high, like your body is tensed and ready for action. And that is not a healthy way to be in an organization. You'd never want to make people feel like that because all rational thought goes out the window. There's no creativity in these moments. There, you find people saying things that they later want to retract, or they say nothing at all. You know, the other symptom that people have during this is the freeze. So they may just go completely silent, start ignoring, just completely shut down. So you don't want to put people in that kind of situation because you really lose all creativity, you lose all rational thought. People are just really trying to survive the moment. They're just breathing through it, just trying to keep calm as best they can to just get it over with, get past that moment.
So that's the biology of this at a very high level. Um, let's dig a little bit deeper here. I mean, this is a great picture. It's there because it talks about threats in the environment and how people are really kind of navigating these all the time. This is just a picture off the web, but I think it really captures it. That is extreme fear, obviously. And there are many types of stressors in the environment, which we'll take a look at. So fight or flight. Let's take a look at this. So we'll get into what becoming stressed out means, because you have environments where people are constantly on high alert. So what happens? Body's put on high alert by chemicals, these neurotransmitters that are released in the brain. So they don't go away immediately. They go into the bloodstream, they tell the body to get ready, and they have to be reabsorbed. And so that reabsorption occurs slowly, then the people calm down, the stress goes away. But imagine if you're in an environment where you're constantly on high alert, or before everything's reabsorbed, more stress. A message comes in that something is down, you got to jump on it right away. There's a call from the boss, things aren't working. These are all stressors. And um, if they stay in that state, then this stuff lingers in the blood. The body never gets a chance to come down, and individuals become stressed out. And I think
Yes.
that's just a great picture, Tara, that you found.
It is. So it really describes this situation where you may be the straw that broke the camel's back. So you're the last thing that stressed the person, that causes them to be completely stressed out. And you're wondering why that one thing that you said or did just set them off so violently, and had such a big reaction from something that seems so
Mhm.
small. That one thing was not the only thing. It was just a million little things that happened before you, and now you're getting the brunt of that person with these threat hormones just hanging around in the brain. So it's not so much of what you did, it's the combination and the culmination of all of the different stressors that they've experienced. So you have to keep that in mind when you're dealing with people, that people are just, they're really walking around with all of these different hormones being released at different times based on how the threats that they're sensing from the environment.
Yeah.
So you may just be, like I said, that straw that broke the camel's back. But look and make sure you're aware, self-aware, as well as paying attention to your coworkers. If you sense that people are a little bit tense in a meeting, or they're a little bit stressed out, you can tell, you can see it on people's faces, you can hear it in their voices when they start to feel like I
Mhm.
don't care, and they start exhibiting those behaviors. And we'll talk about some of those behaviors that you begin to see in the workplace. But once you begin to see that, recognize that that person is on the tightrope and they just need somebody to come and help them. A lot of times people just need someone to listen. They just need somebody to take time and spend, that time with them, hearing them out, helping them see things a little bit differently. Because
Yeah.
just because you are at that heightened state and you sense a threat, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a real true threat. That just means for you, you have perceived it as a threat. But what if you're wrong? But you'll never know that if you don't have people around you that can help you see things from a different perspective, help you calm down, and
Mhm.
really get back into that space where your rational thought is leading and not just your emotions.
People's emotional state is a product of the environment, can be a combination of what's going on in their personal life, their home, and work. It's all cumulative, but you do have to be perceptive about the emotional state of your people. You've got to really try to make sure that you have empathy and you're trying to help them, which is compassion. If there really is an issue, especially in the workplace, you've got to deal with it. People do
Yes.
get harassed, and you aren't necessarily, if you're leading the place, going to know that's going on.
Yes. I
Some
love
very
this
petty
picture.
stuff. Yeah.
I love that
It's
picture. I'm a little stressed right now. Just turn around and leave quietly and no one gets hurt.
that is hysterical. So let's take a look at symptoms, of what are these environments where you see this happening? So, since 90% of the wiring in the limbic system is for fear survival, you got to eliminate any of the workplace behaviors that are really symptomatic of the emotional environments that create this type of stress. So, blame, you know, when you're in blame oriented environment, the phone goes off, you're getting a call, and the only time you ever get that call from that person is because something is not right that they're going to just ream you out for. Betrayal, certain environments, betrayal. I mean, you've seen it many times. People get stabbed in the back. Somebody says, "Hey, yeah, yeah, let's, I'll agree with you in the meeting. Let's go along with that." Boom, meeting comes up. They see the meeting going the other way, and they just abandon you. Right? That's a form of betrayal. Hidden agendas, deceit, ostracism. I've seen ostracism and bullying in the workplace, and I had to put an end to it a number of times as a CIO. Where I found out people were being picked on, and petty people, schoolyard stuff, but it
Mhm.
happens. The bigger the place, the more likely this stuff's going on. That's why you really need to have norms that don't allow this stuff to go on at all. Conflict, threats, all of these things are limbic triggers, right? And a lot of this can happen in the workplace, especially places where the culture's under tremendous amount of stress and there's petty games going on.
Hmm.
You see it all, right, Tara?
Yes, absolutely. You want to make sure that as a leader, you're paying attention to those microaggressions that are happening in the workplace that seem innocent on the surface, because it's sometimes those things that irritate people the most that create that sense of, I need to fight for myself, I need to stand up against what's happening. If the leader is not handling the bully in the organization, then the people will begin to handle the bully. And you may not like the way the people handle the bully. So as a
Mhm.
leader, you better
Good
be
point.
sure you're paying attention so that you can appropriately handle the bully, because every organization has them, right? So people are, we're just high school kids trying to fit in. So you're going to have that
Mhm.
person that says the wrong thing, that is very inappropriate, they're aggressive, or whatever the case might be. But as a leader, you have to learn how to recognize the symptoms of what's happening and then nip it in the bud as soon as possible.
Yeah. And some of it isn't mean spirited. There are just socially inept
Right.
people around. They
Right.
put their foot in their mouth, they say the wrong thing. So intent matters. People should understand that. Some people are coachable, some aren't. You're going to have to figure it out on that situation, the individual. But these things happen, and they're highly destructive to the productivity of the workplace. They destroy relationships, which are the primary productivity tool in this era where teams of people have to create things and do things. They destroy cognitive thought, thinking, creativity, right? They really shut down the people's minds. Mind is a primary tool. So this stuff really matters. It's
Yes.
hugely important.
Yes. Very.
So, what happens? Let's take a look at this. What are the physiological manifestations of an emotionally toxic environment that destroys teamwork and problem solving? I mean, look at this list: cognitive on the left, emotional on the right. People are stressed out, they get brain fog, they have
Mhm.
memory issues, they can't concentrate, they'll have impaired judgment. They'll be coming into meetings. They're not going to be listening for what's happening. They're going to be looking for the next attack. They're on the lookout for negatives, anxious or racing thoughts, constant worrying. These things matter.
Yes, people that are not ever prepared because they're so anxious, they're just frustrated. They
Mhm.
think that the things that they do aren't good enough, so they just end up doing nothing. They're short-tempered, they're quick to be agitated about the simplest things, or they're crying all the time. They're so emotional, just feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes you just fall into that place where you can't have any other expression except cry it out. So these are all just symptoms that something is really wrong in the organization. When people are on edge all the time, there is something wrong that needs to be addressed. And as a leader, you have to make sure you address it, because it is absolutely impacting the quality of
Yeah,
work that's coming out of your organization.
it's huge. And look at the emotional symptoms: moodiness, irritability, short temper, people snapping back at one another because they're so
Mhm.
stressed out. So this stuff fuels a very negative environment. As you get into this downward spiral where the stress is too great, bad things start happening. People start feeling lonely and isolated because the relationships are breaking down. All of this really is so destructive to that productive fabric of the workplace, that we call a healthy culture. It just ruins it.
Yes, absolutely. When you're constantly depressed, or you're dreading going to work, you feel like, I just would rather not be there. You have people that call out sick a lot because they don't want to be there.
Mhm.
Those are all symptoms, and your physical body feels what's happening. So we've been talking about actions and behaviors, but your physical body senses that stress,
It gets
and
worn.
you really feel it in your body. I've been on teams where I felt the stress, where I started having back pains and stomach aches and
Mhm.
headaches. Like, all of that was just stress. And as soon as I got off of that team, got out of that environment, I didn't have that problem anymore. So
Yeah, it's real.
it's real. It's not
It is
just
real.
something that people are making up. Stress and symptoms on the body, emotionally as well as cognitively, those are all real symptoms.
They're real symptoms, and we're not suggesting no stress. A certain amount of stress works. the challenge of deadlines and things create positive stress, and this is why you want people to be intrinsically motivated to do stuff. You don't want to be using the hammer to get work done, because that's stress. It works for short sprints, but ultimately it destroys the human infrastructure. So you could see that it's completely ineffective.
Yes.
So let's go on with some key takeaways, Tara.
Yes. So remember, stress is your body's reaction to a challenge or demand. So whatever is happening around you, your body is reacting to that stress. In short bursts, stress can be positive, such as when it helps you avoid danger or meet a deadline. So we just talked about this, how stress can be good, but extended periods of stress really hurt your health as well as your work performance. And we cannot stress this enough. Stress is bad in a lot of ways. If
Too much
it's
stress.
if
Yeah.
too much stress, it's just really bad. It's bad for your health. It's bad for your team. It's bad. It impacts the quality of your work.
Mhm.
So really spend time with people and understand what they're doing and how it's impacting them. Having that period of stress where you just need to work to get something done, at the end of that period, you meet that deadline, have a celebration. Take people out for lunch,
Yeah.
bring in breakfast, do some sort of
Recharge.
celebration to recharge and celebrate that you made it. Everybody worked hard, you had to make sacrifices. Show you appreciate those sacrifices, because it's in those moments when people have sacrificed and then they get to the deadline and nothing happens. Nobody says thank you. Nobody pats them on the back. Then they start to feel like, well, what's the point? Nobody cares. Nobody appreciates me. And when people start to feel like that, they will pull back on what they bring to work. They will pull back. They will not go overboard. They will do the bare minimums. And so you want to make sure you don't put people in that situation where they feel like nobody cares. You want to make sure you're giving the very best right back to the people that have sacrificed so much. So be sure to celebrate those successes. And even if it's just a small challenge or a small deadline or something that you would think is not a big deal, take time to celebrate it. If somebody does something good, celebrate it. All those little moments make such a huge impact on people's opinions of the company as
Yeah.
well as their relationships internally.
And there's a biological rationale, because that's part of the recharging process. It's not just that break
Mhm.
where people are going to actually take a rest, rebuild their energy stores. Those breaks between, pushes really, really do matter. But in celebrating, you're basically helping cleanse that cortisol out of the body. You're getting the right neurotransmitters into the blood, all the endorphins, you're washing out the stress, and it's part of the de-stressing process. So you do want to do it. I mean, it's not only good for all the reasons Terry mentioned, biologically, you're just going to want to do this.
Mhm.
Right? There are many reasons. Every one of these human factors exists for a reason. They're there biologically to help humans survive and thrive. And celebrations on a positive side, one of them.
Yes. So your move is to be aware, be self-aware. Make sure your language is not generating more stress for people. Make sure you're not adding more stress to people by not
Mhm.
appropriately managing demand and really caring about people. Be sensitive to people that are around you. Pay attention to how they're responding. If they're short-tempered, take them out for a quick break. Just say, hey, let's go take a walk. Let's talk
Yeah.
about, what's happening. Catch up with the person, get their mind on something else completely, take it completely off work. Spend time with people and really get to know them. It really will make a difference in your workplace.
And please join us next week for turning the great resignation into the great retention. It's a very timely topic. I think you're going to like it. Today, we told you to remove the stress. That's going to help, but get some more tips, and we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Take
Bye
care.
for now.
Wow, I thought for a second we weren't going to end.